What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another weekly update. Now, last week was an incredible week. We started off here only to end up back close to all-time highs. It was a monster week. It was essentially the beginning of the Christmas rally, in my opinion. Again, I think moving forward from this point, there's been a lot of stuff that's been clarified. And so, at least in my mind, the next couple weeks will be good weeks. It's not to say something that will occur and possibly pull us back. But currently, right now, looking at the SPX, um, but actually, before we get into this, let me go ahead and pull up my list like I do every weekly update. This is what I got. Earnings are kind of, there's no earnings this week, but even going into the first week of January, you do have some earnings going on, but we're ultimately start focusing on the banks, which start earnings around the 15th of January. From that point, that will start gauging us, prepping us for big tech earnings. And so you're going to start seeing some setups and some runs because of this. So you got the Christmas rally, and then you're going to essentially go into the earnings mode from that point. So no earnings. Events, the biggest things to be watching for is jobless claims, something Powell's been essentially talking about. This will gauge how quickly rates will be raised from this point. Again, we don't really know when that's going to happen. They are pricing in 3 different rate raises this year. So it's all depending on jobs, it's all depending on the economy. If the new variant essentially wreaks in a havoc in supply and demand and supply chains, could be a big issue. And also the inflation. Again, I don't think inflation is really going to. We all know it's high right now, unless it really starts making a bigger increase than it already is. Even though where it's sitting at right now is huge, but or there's a major decline in inflation, I think inflation won't affect the market as much as far as the stock market is concerned. They're more concerned about if there's bigger changes. If there's a little smaller, minute changes, they're not really going to care so much. They're more worried about supply chains and policies that are going on. And the watch list is very deep this week. There's a lot going on. A lot of stuff has been beaten down. And something I've been talking about up to this point is you want to be looking for the ones that are quick to recover. So people will throw their money in big FANG stocks, big well-known names first. And once they do their run up, then you'll transition into a lot of your mid-cap, small-cap stocks. And then you see the influx of money switch to there as FANG kind of rests up right before earnings. And so I believe we're going to see a big push since we've really been kind of held down in the past month. We've really been playing a lot of chop. We're going to head back to all-time highs, get into price discovery, and I think we'll actually do some running at this point, and then again cool off a little bit, hit earnings, and then we'll have our pullback again. But one thing to keep in mind is around that towards the end of February, March-ish area, you have to be very vigilant and very much on your toes. I'm projecting here essentially almost every year around that time, you're going to have a correction. And around that time, I'm expecting the Fed to come out and say something about when their first rate raises are, and then we'll see a correction. Again, corrections this past year have been diluted. It wasn't even a true correction because it wasn't even more than 10% at that point. So I need to understand that we're going to see that first rate raise, I think, is going to give us our first real true correction. And then at that point, the rest of the rate raises, I think, will give us smaller pullbacks, but I think they will be there. Again, the more news and policies that start to hit, especially if it's the same type of news per se, the market will get numb to that. And then so every other news or event that happens after that that's related to that doesn't have quite as much impact on the market. So being said, we have our FANG here. We have these ones are my primaries for this week. Your Teslas, Amazon, Shop, and Googl. Googl, I think, is coming closer to the top. I still think it's got a good push in it left, but it's getting pretty close. Even though Tesla is pushed, it still has a lot of room. And Amazon and Shop, I think, are ones that are really have a ton of room to still run. They're kind of trying to break through resistance right now, but once that does happen, these are ready to start ripping and rolling. And then all the rest of these in particular, based off of Bitcoin, I believe Bitcoin's going to start running again. All crypto will start running. I think January and February will be huge months for crypto again, and then we'll fall in that lull and back around Marchish. It'll have a pullback again, is what I'm kind of expecting. So if you're playing the equity side, Coin and MSCR are fantastic for that. And then Square will run with that as well because of the Bitcoin. But I think Square will have a major comeback on that as well. UPST, Airbnb, and Overstock. This one will also run with Bitcoin as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think once e-commerce starts running too, Overstock will be one with that as well. But UPST and Airbnb, I think we're going to have massive runs as well as far as the value side goes. I try to throw a little bit of value in there. I'm very heavy in growth because those are the bigger moves typically. But I also want to add a little bit of value in there as well to help out. So we're not so top heavy, even though we still are pretty top heavy. But anyway, so we had this massive run in SPX. And if you look at the Fibonacci levels here, we haven't even pulled back straight up. So I'm expecting a pullback, the futures to open and pull back some. I kind of actually expect us to pull back. I mean, you have that daily support way down here at the 46.38 mark. I'm expecting some sort of pullback, maybe just the 38%. So even the 46.60 mark, once the market starts pulling back, I think that support level will start moving up even more. So I'm looking kind of roughly around that point. I think can really bounce and continue up from that point. Again, we got to have a pullback. We can't go straight up. If we do start going parabolic like this is why we get crashes. Again, parabolic move, crash. We don't want that. This parabolic move and then a stale and crash, parabolic move, stale and crash. So we're trying to avoid that. So if we can get, you get a couple days and then you get like a pretty heavy pullback pretty fast. And then watching these levels here, these key levels here to make sure that we hold there and continue on forward. It helps with the bullish run. Bitcoin itself, again, looking fantastic, starting to get some gas here. Was expected the mark. I was expecting it to hold at roughly around that 46 mark. I wasn't expecting it to keep falling down. I think again, this is just the beginning. I think we'll actually Bitcoin will start especially with inflation, the way inflation goes. Bitcoin's going to be used as an inflation gauge. And one of the biggest things too is the market has really been playing almost in parallel with Bitcoin as well. So I always try to keep that in mind, kind of see how Bitcoin's running with the market. Because last time Bitcoin took this big dump, the market went with it. So being said, I think this is just the beginning again of a very strong January coming up. Again, there's always news, maybe regulation comes out or anything. We're getting in a year where there's still a lot of different things that have been discussed, especially about crypto and regulations. And so you have to be very careful. Any strict news or bad news about that can really make Bitcoin extremely volatile. Not that it's already volatile, but can really definitely dump it fairly quickly. So I think this year in Bitcoin, I think it'll be just a big year in general as far as crypto and the mass adoption and NFTs. I think are going to push that whole space to very high levels. I can see possibly hitting 100K this year, but it's not going. I don't think it's going to be just a smooth run. We don't want it to be again parabolic. Becomes parabolic, then we start seeing flash crashes. We don't want to see that. So we want it nice and smooth and steady upwards. So let me get into the first one. Tesla is the first one. As you can see, we've already had that massive parabolic move on Friday, which was fantastic. But again, expecting a pullback from this point. Normally, they'll come back and test dailies before it continues. I'm expecting Sunday night, I'm expecting some sort of pullback. Again, we have a lot of room before we get back to all-time highs. Not saying it has to do it, not saying it will do that. But I think this year will be big for Tesla. I know they got the Semi and I think the 25K car as well coming out. So they got a lot of things in the pipeline this year, especially with the chip supply catching up with stuff. So expect some sort of pullback here, and then start and then continue the run. So again, Tesla still has a lot of room, in my opinion. So something to definitely keep on watch, but I do expect some sort of pullback. It does need to come back and retest the daily. So I'm looking roughly around it's probably maybe the 1026 mark is probably the best we're going to get for Tesla. If we're lucky, maybe around the 1,000 mark before we start heading up. We did kind of do a retest on Friday of the 1,000 mark, and then we just ripped from that point. So looking for continuation on this. Amazon is the next one I have. Amazon, I'm looking for this wedge break. It does look pretty nasty. And we got a lot of daily support we're trying to break. If Amazon does break above this 34.45, I do expect this to really start ripping from that point. So I want to kind of enter on the retest of this, just get a break again and watch that level extremely close on Amazon, and then essentially this will be one of the primary runners going into this Santa Claus rally or Xmas rally or earnings rally, whatever you want to call, because this is normally the biggest time when Amazon has massive moves around this time. So it's essentially just sit back and watch your account grow from this point. So not financial advice. And Shop is the same way. Shop is wedging and breaking. Actually started breaking out here on Friday. So we're looking kind of a retest for that 1427 mark. Again, has a lot of overhead resistance, but if you can get something with time, if you're playing options with Shop and Amazon, that's in your best. Essentially, time gives you better opportunity to be right, and that's what you want. You know, it's going to push some crazy, essentially black swan event comes out. These are expected to essentially run around this time. But again, manage risk and don't just whole account these things and expect them to just go up. Googl, I really like Googl. It's been one of the very strong companies that keep bouncing out of this whole area. They keep recovering. It was one of the ones that's been recovering very fast, along with with Amazon, but now it's essentially money's been pulled from Amazon, put into Tesla. So, but this is still very strong. I do expect some sort of pullback to the 28.95 mark. If it does hold that daily support, I want one retest of that. First retest is always the best. Get a really great bounce that normally lasts for a couple days, and if this is the true rally, could go up and retest all-time highs from that point. So I want to keep Googl on watch. SQ is the other one I got. This one's been beaten down so bad, and one of my it's always been one of my favorite companies. I've really liked it, but with the renaming and everything, a lot of people took it the wrong way, I think. But yet again, they also started really crushing earnings because of the Cash App that they have, especially during the pandemic. It's really helped them out tremendously. And so now, I think right now we're basing very well around here. Something I really want to keep on watch, because I think soon this thing is going to start going parabolic and start ripping up again. I had price targets well over 300. Now it's at 160. I think this is about as bottom as you can get on a good company, and it's very rare you get opportunities like this. This is definitely a buy and hold for a couple of months, possibly. I do believe in this. I do believe in Jack Dorsey and what he brings to the table. So Square is definitely want to keep on watch this coming week, especially going into earnings. Coin is the next one, obviously because of Bitcoin, and coin is really starting to grow on me. I try to catch it. I was actually at an appointment, so I did miss this entry here. I was waiting for this break and retest, and I did miss this, but this parabolic move, looking for a retest, looking for it to come back down, hopefully to this level around the 150, around the 155 mark would be great. So somewhere around this area. If we do get any kind of pullback, good, I think is to help if you're not actually holding crypto. I think it's a good play. Even if you're not holding crypto, I think it's still a good addition moving forward. Again, a lot of these are at floor prices, so you want to be grabbing it now while you can, because again, the next month and a half or so, I think we're really going to get some great moves, and you definitely want to be in the market and not out of the markets. And I know a lot of people like to play the fear game going into this, but I think right now there's a lot of clarity in a lot of different things. Yes, we have uncertainty coming in next year, but I think at the next about month and a half, I think we're pretty good. We know pretty much what's going to go on, what's going to happen. MSCR, same thing. Again, it's another bottom feeder that is breaking the wedge, looking for a pullback. Any pullback on this, in my opinion, is just a straight buy and rip this up to all-time highs. I'm not saying it has to. Again, especially with regulation stuff in crypto in this next year, you're going to have to be very mindful and very careful and take profits when you can on these, because it can turn very quickly, especially if there's any kind of heavy regulation or anything. Even though overall it will help the markets, it's definitely going to wreak havoc. UPST, so I'm really watching this wedge on this, hoping it breaks this week, which looks like it's very well possible. It's been basing as well. So as soon as it breaks this wedge, you look for the retest and then getting this. I think this is definitely one, again, another bottom feeder. Got tons of these great companies that are bottom feeding right now that you need to be buying up. These are the times to buy, is when they were been beaten down so bad that, I mean, there's tons of great companies. These are just the ones I like. These are the ones I look at every time the market takes a big correction, or the market gets a big gouge like this. You look for those companies that have really done well, really proven themselves. But again, I try to stay with the FANG first, and then I pick some of these smaller ones now running up after FANG has stopped. Airbnb is another huge one. I bought the dip on the bottom, so I'm already in this one. Maybe looking to add more onto this one. See it on the side here. But maybe looking to add this one. It's looking at trying to break the wedge. So like all of them, I want to see this wedge break, and then you have this overhead resistance. So if it can get essentially above that 175 mark, I expect this to start retesting all-time highs. I think this Airbnb is a phenomenal. Everybody knows what Airbnb is. Those are the kind of companies I talk about that you need to be paying attention to when the market gets big gouges like this, and buying the dips on these. These are the ones that move fast and grow fast. Yes, you may believe in a company now, but it may take 5 to 10 years for that company to really accelerate. So when you get big gouges, you go after the companies that, even though they may be priced high, they're going to make faster, bigger, quicker moves. Take your profits and then essentially allocate some of that stuff into the smaller ones that you can wait 5 to 10 years that you don't really touch in those long-term accounts. Again, not financial advice. In Overstock, another one. This is, again, another crypto one. A lot of people know they've been one of the first ones to adopt crypto. And so also because of the e-commerce space has been hit so bad, it's kind of really dipped pretty hard. But again, bottom feeding, I think this one, I mean, the monthly is sitting around the 51 mark. So just really watching this one to see if it starts taking off. I have essentially an alert set here at the 65 mark. If it does break that and retest that, I'm looking to get into this and start riding this back up. Again, I think it has great potential, especially if Bitcoin starts to run. So now I know this video has been extremely long. There's been a lot of information because there's a lot of stuff coming up. If you've made it this far, I do appreciate it. There is these are times like this where you set up coming into the following months. So that's why this video is so long, because you need to understand everything that is going into play, all the possibilities in trying to place your money correctly. You're not going to always get it correct, but your best chances are with companies that are already well known, companies that are already established at this point, and then you start soaking that money after you've taken profits into those lower cap ones that you feel are more, that have greater long-term growth potential overall. So, and again, this year will be a surprise. Every year is different, and so that's something else to keep in mind. But I hope everybody had a great holidays, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.